And Gary Miliefsky, a cybersecurity expert and founder of Snoopwall, also a member of the US Department of Homeland Security. Thank you, a founder member of the US Department of Homeland Security. Thank you very much, for being with us. Try and dig down into this situation that we're seeing at the moment. For those of us who are not au fait with the cybersecurity world, it's a terribly confusing picture. On the basis of the evidence that you have seen from the FBI and others, how certain are you that the Russians were involved in state-sponsored hacking around the US election?
Actually, I'm highly certain that they weren't involved because of the evidence so far. And unless I see more that points otherwise, it seems to have become political. And Neil, thanks for having me on the show. I just want to point out, Vladimir Fomenko, a 26-year-old who owns the servers in Russia called King-Servers, Neil, he will give you a Russian IP address for $5 a month. So when this happened, he questioned who was using his servers and where were those accounts located. And it turns out whoever was on the keyboard hacking the DNC, those keyboards were in the EU, they were not in Russia. And that's where the paper trail stops, and I'd like to see it go a little deeper in the investigation.
So your suggestion is that perhaps the FBI haven't investigated the European end of this hacking scandal. I mean, certainly what the FBI appear to be suggesting, that this is just one piece of evidence, that there is other evidence of other action that's been taken in other places that points the finger towards the Kremlin.
Well, this was an old free version of APT28, APT29 malware. The Russian government cyber team, they don't use old stuff. They usually tune it up and get rid of any risk that it's going to fail before they deploy their malware. They're experts at this. They might do it in a different language. They might use a Chinese keyboard. Everything, all the cookie crumbs pointed to them doing foolish things out of a server in Russia, but then if you follow the paper trail, it just doesn't, so far to me, it doesn't add up. And also, the real big question, Neil, is did anyone in America change their vote because they saw some of the nasty things, the shenanigans that go on behind the curtain in the DNC?
So in essence, your point appears to be that it is so obviously being linked to Russia that it couldn't possibly be Russia.
Russia is too good at hacking America. So are the Chinese. It takes so long for us to figure out, who really did it. And that's why, if they wanted to, they wouldn't have used servers that you or I could buy for $5 a month. For less than £5 a month, you could be in Russia right now and you could download the malware, an old version, for free and start doing the same thing and challenge the Brexit.
I mean, the claim from Julian Assange is that a 14-year-old could have hacked the Podesta emails, and that may or may not be true. I know some very technologically literate 14-year-olds. But in terms of who the actors are, those with the sufficient skill set, I mean, who are the suspects in an engagement, a cyber engagement such as this?
A lot of times it is teenagers, hacktivists. If you recall the Sony Pictures breach, I knew it was North Korea before anybody really wanted to blame them. I got a hold of the malware at the same time the FBI did, and it definitely pointed to North Korea. And they used IP addresses that were rented from the Chinese government. That one was very obvious. This one is not as obvious, and to have the cookie crumbs lead us to Russia without digging a little deeper, I'm suspicious of the conclusion and the findings. I think they're going a little too fast for political reasons.
And Gary Miliefsky, whilst we have you, I wonder if I might ask your opinion of the way in which Donald Trump has expressed his scepticism about the intelligence agencies. Of course, you connected to the Department of Homeland Security set up in the aftermath of 9/11. There are a lot of people working very hard to ensure that the United States remains safe. How does the criticism in the public domain, make you feel?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm also a critic myself in the sense that I don't want to see OPM.gov losing 22 million records to the Chinese government, WhiteHouse.gov hacked, FBI.gov's website defaced by teenagers, Anthem.com 80 million records. We are victims in America. We have to invest in much stronger cybersecurity. And there's a challenge because our federal government, and you're going through the same thing in the UK, wants to reduce encryption, not strengthen it, to kind of eavesdrop on alleged terror suspects. But by weakening encryption, you turn a Bentley into a Ford Pinto. and that's a bad thing. That reduces GDP. So there's a lot of friction and tension. I think it's going to take some time and some good dialogue to get our government back on track to harden and secure our networks much better than they are today.
Yeah, but surely as long as that Ford Pinto is produced on American soil, Donald Trump will be happy. Gary Miliefsky, thanks very much for joining us on Sky News tonight.